Three, two, one. Pating! Welcome, guys. Estar Villa, Manipulated Man. We're on part 2-ish. Technically 3, 4, and 5 of the chapters. Not that it matters. The main topics she talks about are a woman's horizon, the fair sex, and the universe is male. What does all that mean? Well, you'll find out. Hey guys, welcome, part 2. If you're catching this live, it's literally just finished part 1. We're splitting these up into smaller chunks for a little bit easier to digest time with you guys. Let me know how that works out for you. And don't forget, if you like what you see, you know the spiel. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Helps the algorithm out, and the more people that see it, if you agree with the content and you think it's useful, the more engagement, the more people can see. Anyway, so next part is the women's horizon. We're going to cut right into it because we're a little behind time. But the quote to start it off is, "Whatever men set about to impress women with, nothing counts for nothing in the world of women. Only another woman is of importance in her world." So again, she has the exact same problem that you're going to see from a lot of the traditional conservative, tradcon, Jordan Peterson-esque, old-fashioned guys, old order thinking, as Rollo puts it, essentially pretending it's the 1950s. I always call it the Norman Rockwell fantasy, but... So she only thinks about the beta buck side of the equation. And if you guys are new to this channel, you may not know what the alpha fucks and beta bucks thing are. I'll simply put, girls have a want for the best genetic option available, the hottest dude, the most attractive dude, as well as the provisioning side. Who's the best father of my kids? Who's the kindest man? Who's the nicest man? Things that make her wet and things that stave off her anxiety and make her comfortable. So you're going to see those referred to as the AFBB side of things. Now, so she's talking mostly about beta bucks. And she's also talking about, again, intra and intersexual dynamics, competition with women, and validation from men. When you're dealing with the alpha fuck side of things, generally the opinion of the man matters more than anything. It's a feature of hypergamy, is that a girl is fiercely loyal to only one authority at a time. And if it's not you, it's somebody else. This is why it's not necessarily a husband, it's not necessarily a boyfriend, it's not necessarily for a lifetime. It's usually about the authority and whichever one is most useful to her. So in this case, if it's a girl just thoughting around, she's going to see her coolest Chad, and for that 8 hours that night, he's the hypergamous best option, so she defers to him. He doesn't call her the next day, she gets mad at him, goes on to Twitter, complains how all men are trash. A whole bunch of dudes that she doesn't care about says, "Well, not all men, I'm super nice." And she goes, "Yeah, I don't care. You also don't have a six-pack or a SoundCloud album, and you haven't carved out a 6-block chunk of Seattle for your own personal warlord." Same thing. I think there's going to be an example we use down below with, so I'll put a pin in this one. We'll talk about it later when it comes to hospitals. But what's intra and intersexual dynamics? Well, intersexual dynamics is that between men and women. And that's just as we've talked about, the beta bucks, the alpha fucks. I want to find the best species or the best prime example of man out there and have his babies. And I want the nicest, kindest man ever to be the father of the children. If you're lucky, it's the same guy, but often it's not. And God knows with the way the divorce industry has been set up right now, most guys are finding right now the role of father is very fungible. Guys can talk about it's very important to have a father in the kids' lives, but the girl has him replaced in less than 12 months. Like, I know companies that take longer than that to replace good talent. Intersexual dynamics, though, is the competition among women. And it's hard to explain to a guy, so I'll just use intersexual or intrasexual dynamics as a guy. Think about all the competition that you'll do as guys. We'll go from everything. Who's got the nicest car in the group? Who's banged the most women? Who's the best at Smash Brothers? Like, every single competition we have among men that the express purpose of it is not to attract women is intergender competition. This is the male social matrix. We've talked about it in the previous video, how men organize in like a social cohesion or a socially cohesive unit. Women have the exact same thing. The only difference is the way it's applied. And then the male and the female sexual social matrix, that's a separate topic on a separate video. Put a pin in this one. We talk about it briefly in the When I Say No, I Feel Guilty series, but just be aware it's there. Men and women organize separately. They have competition among themselves, which is separate than the competition among the other species or the other gender species. It's also a reason why I'm talking about how the intersexual dynamics, or the fight that women have amongst women, is more important to them than the validation from the beta buck side of things, or the provisioner, or the provider. So this is where the strategy comes, where men need to market themselves more as a luxury brand and not a commodity. The idea is you're putting yourself outside of that intersexual dynamics and into literally fight for your attention, your validation. The onus is on her to prove herself to you that she's worth keeping around. Reason that's pretty straightforward. Women control sex, but men control relationships. Commitment is something that men can control, the opt-in. Which sounds good, but a lot of guys have a problem squaring that circle when we talk about Bertholdt's law, which, for example, the female of the species determines the conditions of the relationship. And when there's no more benefit for the woman, no relationship takes place. Well, how can you say that men are the gatekeepers of relationships, but women are in control of it? Gatekeeper. It's a competitive monopoly. Think of it like a restaurant. When you're in that restaurant, the restaurant decides what you will eat, but you have the decision of what restaurant you go and eat at. It's the same thing here. You have the ultimate control of whether a relationship happens or not. You either acquiesce when a girl is pushing for one, or you actively decide there's one. But at the same time, like a restaurant, if she doesn't pick you as her restaurant yet, then you don't get to decide what she eats. It's a good way of thinking about it anyway. So how does sex fit into this one? And here's a funny one. A lot of guys think that sex is all just about getting your rocks off, and it's not. I always talk about David Buss and Cindy Minson on this great evolutionary psychology book called Why Women Have Sex. And inside of it, it's a giant slog of a book, 800 pages of the motivations that women have for sex for just about any social situation you can think of. And out of the 800 motivations, girl getting her rocks off ranks about 786. Like, they do not look at sex the way guys do. So sex can often be used as a manipulative tool to hook a guy in. That's the single mom scenario. The sex is so good, I had to wife her up and take care of her kid. Girls that are super sexual, they always... Here's something anybody who's been dating a while will know. You're dating a girl, and at some point, she'll confess to you that she's always been kind of bisexual and she's always been curious about a threesome. I can count on one hand the number of times, the hundreds of times this has been admitted, there's actually been follow through. It is purely a manipulative tactic, attacking a guy's ego, letting him know, oh, I got myself a crazy one, a slutty one, but my slut never pans out. Just one of those things to remember. When a girl talks and uses mouth noises, especially when it appeals to your ego, it doesn't matter unless it's followed through already. That's something to keep in your mind. So I will continue on with another quote from this. It is, "Those living works of art which are beyond man's comprehension. Those creatures walking the fashionable streets of Paris, Rome, and New York." She's talking about desirable women here. "The skill of the eyeliner and shadow expertly applied, the choice of lipstick and its application, with or without a lip brush, in several layers or only one." These are all makeup terms in case you guys don't know. Watch some James Charles stuff, you'll get caught up. In several layers or only in one, the compromise to be achieved between the pros and cons of fake eyelashes, the matching of a dress, a stole, a coat with the lighting. All of this is an art requiring expert knowledge of which man has no conception. A man lacks any type of appreciation for this. He has not learned to interpret the extent of female masquerades, and he cannot possibly evaluate those walking works of art. So to achieve perfection in such skill needs time, money, and an infinitely limited mind. All of these requirements are met by women. Again, savage. This lady is savage. In fact, when a woman dresses, she considers a man to a slight extent, the extent necessary to hold him and encourage him to provide in the widest sense for her. Every other investment is aimed at other women. Man as importance only as a provider. Again, this is making a clear distinction between intra and intersexual dynamics. If you flat out tell a girl you don't care about this, you don't care about that, dude, I like girls wearing natural makeup. I don't care if they're wearing makeup, and they still put it on. They're not doing it for you. Now, a lot of, again, MRA and MGTOW brands say, well, if she's not doing it for you, it's because she's signaling that she's available to some other man out there. Which may be true, but usually what they just do is they start showing more cleavage and make themselves more available. Because that's the female signal of I'm available, boys, is that she makes it very easy to isolate her. That's the stuff to watch out for. The makeup and the dressing fancy for work thing, that's so she can flex on Susie from accounting. And trust me, that bitch had it coming. Hates that bitch. She'll come home and you'll bitch about him constantly. She'll go into work the next day wearing shaven legs. Meanwhile, you haven't shaved your legs for me for 2 weeks. Yeah, but that bitch has to learn. I'm the top tier. Again, this taps into that telltale sign if you're a beta bucks in a scenario. Whether she dresses better for the office than for you, or whether how you're treated next to her girls in the social matrix. These are those red flags you need to be aware of. It's not the ones that you're going to watch on the red pill branded channels where 7 signs to see if she treats you as an alpha male. Number 6 will surprise you. Wow, thanks, man. I didn't know any of this stuff. No. Here's what it is. You ready? When you're in front of her and her friends, does she use you as a flex on her friends? That's a red flag on whether she thinks of you as a hypergamous best option or a useful idiot, whether you're the beta bucks or the alpha fucks. Because it is an extreme display of dominance from a female part to her social friends if she can berate you in front of them and you put up with it. That's horse girl manifested in a regular relationship. If you don't know, horse girl is kind of like the catch-all phrase to describe a girl that loves to beat down giant animals and has kind of like a power fantasy about it. You'll see it in Dungeons and Dragons and like science fiction and fantasy art of a girl who's got a giant beast by her side or a giant robot or the Queen of Dragons. All of that stuff is horse girl stuff. Again, that's to appeal to the female mind. The best weapon for a man is a gun, and the best weapon for a woman is a man with a gun. And this is exactly what that appeals to. So if you want to know you're the beta bucks, how does she talk about you when you're in the room? How does she talk about you when you're not in the room? If you're truly a girl's hypergamous best option, the first rule that a girl has is you do not badmouth your spouse in front of others. You just don't. Same as like kids. You don't have a fight about parenting in front of the kids. You make a call, you guys discuss it afterwards. This sets up a unified front, and if you want to know if a girl is on your team, if she's that ride or die bitch that I constantly tell you guys about, will she defend you when you're not there? And that right there is what you're looking for. In fact, at a bit of a tangent here, there's a strategy that a lot of guys talk about is like, should you snoop on your girl's social media? Should you borrow her phone? And there's an alpha and a beta way of looking at this. The beta way of looking at it is you want to find evidence of her cheating on you so that you can divorce her. For some reason, you need permission. You need permission from the gods. Well, she's cheating on me. These texts prove it. And now I can divorce her. Never mind, she's made me miserable for the last 10 years. I need evidence that it's not my fault and it's because she did something wrong. And that's a very feminine way of looking at things. And I want to attribute this to the Ultimate Cad, one of the older guys in the sphere I talk about him a lot. I won't bring him up here because it's not important. But here's the thing. He suggests, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, the reason a guy needs to take that one opportunity and snoop through his girl's social media on her phone is to see how she talks about you when you're not there in the room. And that's the red pilling that guys need to hear way more on whether she's getting some dick on the side. I'll argue that one till I'm blue in the face, because a girl who speaks well of you when she doesn't have to is a girl who's invested, and that's what you're looking for. And if you don't see that, there's the red flag you need to ditch. Yeah, one reason why you can be an alpha male or not in a girl's life, and reason one will surprise you. Wow, smash like, hit subscribe. Welcome to the YouTube channel. Yeah, you get the spiel. Next on this one, so if a firm wants to get a hold of a specialist in some field, it will flatter and entice him in every way possible until he weakens. Again, appeals to your ego. It's a very easy manipulative skill. Once a contract is signed, his employers can relax. Their leverage over him continues to increase. A woman behaves in much the same way with a man. She gives her man just enough rope to ensure he is preferring life by her side to breaking his contract with her. I tell you guys all the time, hate her just a little bit, and that's exactly why. That's why, as soon as you put the ring on it, that's a commitment. That's a high investment signal, and a girl has an innate skepticism bias that prevents her from falling for low investment signals. So when she's got those ones, again, back to Franco's, the betaization process. She's got that communication. She's got those expensive signals. Now it's about putting him to work. I've got the loyalty. I no longer need to fight for it again. It's the same. If you really need to find an equivalence, this is the equivalent of a guy who tells the girl everything she wants to hear until he hits his money shot, and then he just doesn't care about her anymore. Well, this is the female equivalent of that. Once I got the ultimate commitment, I don't have to try anymore. I can gain a bunch of weight because he's not going to leave me. I'll cut my hair. Again, those are all intrasexual flexes. A girl cutting that Karen bob, a girl giving herself a pixie cut in the middle of a marriage is saying, dude, I got this guy so hooked, I can ugg myself up and he will stick around. Not only will he stick around, he'll tell me I still look hot. Now, this may not be a conscious thing. They may not be thinking of it this way. This may be a limbic brain thing, but this is exactly what's playing out in a sexual dynamic standpoint. So just be aware of it. And this is, again, this is why these things are small boundaries, small little flexes that you need to nip in the butt early on. Establish strong boundaries. Be willing to walk away if your boundaries aren't being met. There's only 3 tools you have to establish your boundaries. That's your attention, your commitment, and your affection. You can't use those to get what you want, but you can pull them away commensurate with whatever boundaries being enforced. And those tools only have any use if you're a high-value man, if you're a hypergamous best option. Again, she doesn't give a shit about you if you're just the beta buck. She does not care, and that's fine. If you want to be that kind of plow horse, useful idiot, then that's the decision you've made. So be aware that you've made that decision to opt into your own misery, and I don't want to hear any whining about your MRA nonsense because you asked for this. She didn't tell you to do it. In fact, she told you you were a great man because she didn't know you'd be stupid enough to fall for it. It's not her fault. Again, Briffault's law. Companies, the same thing. Guys are very good at seeing it with a company when they're trying to be wooed by a certain organization, but you throw some nice set of knockers on them and guys don't seem to know. They have a nice example quoted there too, where they kind of go, there's a lot of this was just examples to articulate the point. I stuck this one in because I thought it was pretty good. If a woman flirts with her husband's best friend, her intention is to annoy his wife, whose feelings do matter, unlike those of her own husband. If she felt deeply about this man in question, she'd never show her emotions in public. Again, teases always are very obvious with their flirting, and that's your big indication. Is she flirting in front of somebody else, then realize, just the same way that she berated you in front of her friends, this is a flex. A lot of guys end up getting insecure. A girl will openly flirt with another guy, and by acting insecure, you're saying he actually is a threat to you. And by saying that, a girl's limbic brain's going, I know you were just kind of flirting to teach, Betty from accounting because she's such a bitch, but I don't know. He thinks this guy's top tier too. Maybe there's something to it. And in that way, you actually sabotage your own relationship by deferring to the alpha male of the group, or AMOG as they call it. Personal story in this one is actually pretty good. It was from an older married red pill guy. His name was Frenchie, or Illes Resuit, or what was his, I can't remember his other handle, but I just call him Frenchie. He was in his 60s. His wife, his high school sweetheart, that perfect dream, she was perfect for him in every way, ended up passing away of cancer. And he was having a huge problem getting over that because every woman he dated, he compared to her. And so he just couldn't enjoy women, even though that was his last promise to her, was to continue to date because she still got 40 years of life. So we kind of got him on the idea of, enjoy hating him a little bit. It's okay. Just because it's sex doesn't mean you have to love him. Sometimes it's just a sport effing, Sometimes just a little hate F. And so we kind of got to enjoy that. And so that was our gift to him. His gift to us was how to handle this situation. It's probably his best thing. He talked about how she had a little crush on the coach of their son's PE team or sports team, something like that. His response to her flirting openly with another guy like that was just start to poke fun at her, attack her ego. And it worked like a charm. The girl was embarrassed. She stopped doing it. He kept his position on the top of the F pile. Everything worked out well. because that's the behaviors that's the alpha behaviors that help keep a girl's attraction and establish yourself as a hypergamous best option. You don't see other guys as a threat. And if you do see other guys in a threat, again, I'll quote from another one of the old school guys. He's been in there as long as me. Awesome guy, Bogey D6. Well, if he gets her, I'll throw in the truck for free. Take her and the truck, because I won't be needing it at that point. And it's perfect. It's that kind of aloofness. I articulate this because a lot of guys take this, they add some tism to it, and they ramp it up to 12. And this is that whole, well, only a real man is not jealous. Like, you should trust her, bro. Don't be jealous like that. A real man isn't insecure that way. And that's the wrong takeaway from that. That's how you get manipulated into letting your girl go on a girl's night out, suck 5 dicks, and then come home and kiss you on the mouth. It's not what you want. No, it's trust but verify, but at the same time, you don't see people as a threat because you have the abundance to know if she pulls this stuff, you're booting her, and you'll be just fine with another girl within the week. Yeah, brah, girls have the weirdest flexes. They do, but that's the thing. We don't have to understand them because they're not for us. They may seem stupid and weird, but that's first rule of marketing. If you can see the manipulation, then you're not the target demographic. Moving on here. Oh, so the one thing I wanted to add to it, though, was advertising. There's a reason why advertising is always catered to women. It sells women on the same idea. So the quote to act to this one, and this lets you know a lot about the constant media thing. I was just on Richard Cooper's channel, Entrepreneurs in Cars. We talked about why you need to stop watching entertainment that's not designed for you. Everything is designed for women. So according to statistics, it's the female sector of the population who spends the most money. Money men earn for them. Manufacturers do not attempt to simulate sales by advertisements displaying handsome he-men. On the contrary, no matter what it is they want to sell, packaged holidays, detergents, cars, bedroom suites, televisions, each advertisement flaunts a beautiful woman. So if women were free of financial cares, the majority of them would probably prefer to spend their lives in the company of other women than with men, and not all because they're lesbians. Again, she's savage with these quotes. What men call lesbian tendencies probably have a little to do with women's sexual drive. No, the seximists almost have no interest in common. What, besides money, can bind a woman to a man? Again, she's talking about the beta buck stuff. I will do as a soft side note on this one. Darla 10, one of the older school people and one of the few people that I can respect on the purple pill sphere. She was out of all the women that I've seen in this space, I would consider her top 3 of women that would be considered a red-pilled women. Of course, she got divorce raped by her husband, so that's probably why. But she had mentioned this thing she noticed she was in New York City, that a lot of the girls that after they got divorced would all of a sudden become like lesbians overnight. And she couldn't understand it. And then eventually they would lose it and then go and find another man. I would argue it's kind of this thing that she's talking about here, where it's that need for intra-sexual competition kind of manifests as in like a semi-romantic relationship, which also explains the idea of lesbian bed death, but we won't go there. I'm pretty sure just by mentioning the word lesbian, I've gotten demonetized as it is. So do yourself a favor, smash the like button, make sure to watch the video through its entirety, share on social media, because without this engagement, we've lost the monetary angle to incentivize YouTube to spread it far and wide. So it's all up to you guys at this point, man. I swear to God. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we can spot male flexes. You can see, dude, I hope she sees this, bro. Females, most of the stuff that they're doing that makes no sense and guys don't care about is the I hope she sees this, bro, for women. Next section, though, the fair sex. So a man needs a woman because, as we shall see, he needs something to which he must subject himself. Again, this is the beta buck side of things, but at the same time, he must retain his self-respect. This leads him to endow a woman with qualities which justify his subjection. As a woman has never made any attempt to use her wits, he can't call her intelligent. But he gets close to it by creating the concept of women's intuition. So in the absence of any other real qualities, he calls her beautiful. The hell's she talking about right now? These are fancy words, and we're not fancy men. We're simple men. So here's what it describes. It means we aren't attracted to women. We're attracted to our own ego. It's a narcissism thing. It's all about me. Obviously, there's healthy and unhealthy levels of narcissism. Narcissism can go all the way up to a disorder, in which case it's definitely harmful to you as a society and as a person. What do I mean by that? We have an image in our head of what a woman is. You ask a kid to draw a woman, he draws a circle, puts a couple sticks on it, draws a triangle dress, that's a woman, and we all know it. We have a symbol in our head. What is the ideal woman? It's the woman of Willendorf, the 22,000 original god of the human species. Every girl that we walk up to, we have that, we project that onto her. We don't see her as intelligent, we see her as beautiful, we see her as the goddess. And it takes a certain callousness on you, a certain abundance, a certain seeing behind the curtain to shed those mental models to the point where you stop seeing women as women. You see them as individuals with their own traits, positive and negative. And you want to talk about vetting women, which I don't agree with, but whatever. You want to talk about boundary enforcement. It all stems from being able to observe what's there and not seeing what you want to see. So as soon as you see guys try to flex saying, oh, she's the most beautiful girl in the world, and you look and you're like, that's a 7, dude. Again, if you don't see the manipulation, you're not the target demographic. Girls who talk about, guys who talk about 9s and 10s, whether it's the I only bang 9s and 10s crowd, or whether it's the she's the most beautiful woman I've ever met, they're talking about their ego, and everybody else can see right through it. Girls aren't 10s. Girls aren't 9s. Girls aren't even 8s. Girls are 4s, 5s, and 6s. Girls cluster around the mean. Most girls are average. There's 3 categories. Would I sleep with her and not tell anybody about it? Would I sleep with her and would I not brag about it? And would I sleep with her and will I brag about it? That's it. Anything outside of that doesn't register on your list of women. So sorry, Tess Holliday. You don't really count as a woman. I'd say what you do count as, but we've got bullying laws here, so I can't make any bovine or hoggish references. But I'm sure you guys can do the jokes on your own. Whatever. Worst case scenario, she cries over a tub of ice cream. And this ego thing is also why the instant a girl shoots down, and this is why girls are very, like, they're not openly rejecting. A lot of guys say, well, if you're not interested, just say so. It's like, no, because our egos are scary to women because we are violent men, or at least we used to be. So when a girl shoots you down, what happens? A guy gets mad at her, calls her a lesbian, goes back to his friends, laughs at her, makes up some stuff about her. It's all to soothe his ego. It's like having God reject you. Hate him back, it works for me. There's a Lethal Weapon line for you guys. Hate her back, it works for me. So yeah, girls don't do that because they don't like the rejection, they don't like the conflict, and they don't like the potential of you being violent to defend your ego. So they just say we should be friends. They say, well, maybe later. Well, they'll say, well, I have a boyfriend right now. And yeah, they're lying to you because you want to be lied to. Because if you're not lied to, then your imaginary purpose of woman in your mind disappears. And we can't have that. So moving on. What is a man to do on a woman when the smooth curves have become flabby tires of flesh, her skin slack and pallid, when her childish tones have grown shrill, and the laughter of children sounds like nagging? Or neighing. That's a horse sound, I guess. What has become of this shrew when her face no longer atones for her ceaseless insanities, and when the cries of ooh and ah begin to drive him out of his mind? Basically, what happens when she turns into Karen? This mummified child will never fire a man's erotic fantasy again. One might think of her power broken at last, but no, she still manages to get her way. And for 2 reasons, which I think she gets wrong, by the way. The first is obvious. She now has kids who enable her to keep feigning helplessness. And then the other one is our ego in there, but it's a couple concepts to get through on here. The first one is she kind of gets to describing wife goggles. Rollo talks about an aspirational model of love that men have. We see women the way we want them to be. We've already talked about our egos, the woman of Willendorf. They're the gods in our eyes. They're the symbol of women. When you date a woman, when you first fall in love with her, when you first do that pair bonding, whatever you want to call it, you freeze in time the way you look at her. You're basically her own best Instagram filter is a guy who loved her from when he was early on. She will always be that 18-year-old trollop that you screwed in the back of your parents' car. She could be 45, saggy, with all kinds of kids in tow. She could be a nagging shrew. All you see is that other image, and that's what your ego projects, and so that's what your ego perceives. You gloss over all the soft spots. But, and here's the part that modern women have been failing to an extreme extent lately. Wife goggles are really attached on their good. They're strapped into place, but you can slap them off. Infidelity, berating a man to the point past learned helplessness can help you, because there's so many psychological things that help a girl be an absolute horrid woman, and guys will still put up with it. But once you cross that line, it slaps the wife goggles off a guy's face, and a guy stops seeing that aspirational model of his girl. He just starts seeing the actual girl she is. And what you'll notice is that most guys don't find Karen very hot. They might they might face F them, but that's it. It's mostly to shut her up. But yeah, so a luxury for top tier men. And she talks about this earlier where the second thing where top tier men like having soft harems or mistresses and that. Here's a cycle on this one. A girl will go on a date with a top tier man and she doesn't know how to secure his commitment. So he dumps her off for another girl, or he cheats on her with another girl. They go online, they say all men are trash. And then 80% of the guys that she has no interest in will say, not all men are like that. I'm good. I'm loyal. Dude, she doesn't care. I can make a quote here, and I probably will, the Jordan Peterson one about rabbits. He talks about lobsters. No, I think his rabbits are much more valuable. He says, how virtuous is a rabbit for being harmless? Not very much. Nobody's scared of a rabbit. Nobody respects a rabbit. The only thing that is virtuous is a man who can do great evil but chooses not to. It's that ability that puts weight on these things. Again, the ability to sleep with tons of women, the ability to pull, the ability to replace her, that makes your commitment matter. And unfortunately, a lot of girls find that if they shoot for the stars and they pick a man that's well above their league, they may be able to sleep with them, but they can't keep with them. And if you meet a girl that has good enough girl game to lock one of those guys down, well, him not cheating on her is a gift. At the same time, women kind of strategize around that with they'd rather share an alpha than be saddled with the beta. But that's the problem here we have. A lot of garbage tier men complaining that a bunch of women who are going after things they have are going to fly in the sun like Icarus. They're complaining that they don't walk with them because these men have all the qualities they want. And it's just the clueless fighting the clueless over people that don't care. Because that top tier guy that keeps moving from girl to girl, I've been that for a time. Like, we just don't care. This is somebody else's problem. It's not my problem. And again, I've been telling you since this series started, guys will opt into their own misery. And in this case, it's true as anything. Guys opt into their own misery. Top tier guys, the alpha male type guy, the archetype that you think of in your head when you think of an alpha male, even though I disagree it's a demographic, we're using it here just for the sake of illustrating the point. What works for me and what makes my life better is good. And what doesn't is bad. It's the master and the slave morality. The master, the guy who's able to harness, to call the shots in his own relationships, is in a far better position to make everybody else's life better, which makes him better. Again, the good master morality. The slave is the guy who's flexed on so that way she can look good in front of Betty from accounting. That bitch had it coming. The one who flirts to piss off Betty, not because she wants to emasculate her husband, but because she just doesn't like that girl. That's the slave morality. Oh, I'm super loyal. I'm the rabbit. I'm very ineffective, but I would never cheat on you. It's like, dude, you're treating your vice as a virtue. You're treating the things that you're forced to put up with. It's not that you wanted to cheat. It's that you couldn't. So you're trying to pretend like that's a gift, and girls see right through it. They may not be the smartest creatures, but they'll beat your ass with experience. I'll tell you right now. I don't know if that's a compliment or a neg. I don't know. Get some feminists in here. Ask her opinion on it. I'm sure she'll write this off somehow. Last section. The universe is male. So man, unlike women, and this is the fluffing part I don't like, is beautiful because man, unlike women, is a thinking creature. This means man has a thirst for knowledge. Man thinks. Man's creative. Man is sensitive. As a result of his exceptionally wide, multidimensional emotional scale, he not only registers the commonplace in fine graduations, but creates and discovers new emotional values and makes them acceptable to others due to sensible descriptions or recreates them as an artist. This is max cope if I ever heard it. This nobility of man nonsense, this is tangential. Like, nobody cares. This is what men say to themselves. They say, I have a high IQ, or I'm good with women, or I have a great, like, yeah, I'm sure if you're good with women, like, she'll let you know. You'll find that out. You can't lie about it. All those stupid coping strategies guys have, and they're saying, And she makes the argument that the universe is male because men are interested in all this stuff. Meanwhile, getting slaughtered by the thousands. So how noble is the painter who can't finish a painting because he's got his hands chopped off? So that's why I'd argue a lot of the whining about how men are better than women is kind of based on a lot of the work that came from Estar Villa. So I would ignore all this stuff. You want to talk about how noble you are, show results, show receipts. You want to show how big of a man you are, show you can sleep with women, and show you can outcompete other men. That's basically it. Tactically, though, because like we've said before, asserting this male need for competition, this alpha stuff, haphazardly, will end up running into problems down the line. So we'll end on this quote. A woman takes interest only in subjects that have an immediate personal usefulness to her. And that's alpha bucks and beta bucks. If a girl wants to get a top tier man, get that perfect man, throw a baby into her, even if that's not her intention, that's her limbic brain telling her that, regardless of the justification. That's the usefulness to her. That guy who's good with kids and should man up and marry her and her 3 kids, that's usefulness to her. And that shouldn't be a controversial thing either. People are incentivized to take behaviors that are useful to them. The reason that she says it as a woman only takes interest in this is because men have been bred into a self-sacrificial way of being, and we really need to adopt it. Like I said, this immediate now we can argue whether immediate or long-term usefulness is a good thing. Put it aside. Let's just say usefulness and however you want to describe it. Having utility as your primary motivator and your primary use of inspiration as to what you do, I think it codes too simple for woman. It needs to code for human being, in which case, this is where I make the argument that feminists and tradcons had 3 generations to define modern man in a way that benefited them, and they all failed miserably. So we're handling it from here, and rational self-egoism is as close as you can come to an overarching philosophy or ideology, if you want to throw that out to this place. What's good for me? And that's about as far as you need to take it. She makes some stuff here about birth control and that. The fact that women don't even know how their own baby maker is made, how birth control works, what turns them on, all this stuff, because they don't need to. They just yell at a man. Oh, that was the thing. So I told you before about putting a pin in hypergamy or best option, no matter how long of a time it is. So that's why I put this in here. So it is a fact that most women, mothers included, generally have no idea how the human fetus is formed, how it develops into the womb, or what stages it passes through before birth. Of course, and this is why a lot of guys are like, how could you want 3rd trimester abortions? She's like, I don't know how it works. Baby goes in, baby goes out. They don't really make that same association guys do with fetal development. So that kind of explains that one to you. But of course, it's unnecessary for her to know about these things since she can't influence the development of the embryo anyway. It's only important to know that a pregnancy lasts 9 months, and for that, the duration must take care of oneself, and in case of any complications, immediately consult one's doctor, who will, of course, restore everything to order. In that case, the authority during a medical situation is to the doctor. He is now her hypergamous best option, and the guy is supposed to defer. You can make an argument that in the cases of medicine, it's a good thing, but I want you to think about this just automatically deferring to authority in this situation. A marriage counselor is considered an expert in relationships. Is it beneficial in a relationship for a man to defer to the marriage counselor and looking for a referee in his relationship? If you watch the older series, you already know my answer to this one. If you have doctors giving advice on how to deal with, I don't know, let's say a worldwide pandemic right now, and it ends up making you the second person in the girl's life that she's deferring to all these things. She wears a mask, she sanitizes your house, she sprays bleach on your clothes. You're living a life of plow horsery, and she's looking at the doctor as the ultimate authority. Is it such a good idea to defer to the authorities in that situation? Something for you to think about. As I put it in here in my notes, it makes a man the best option for her for that length of time. You are trash, the doctor is God, and tomorrow you're back to normal. Just make sure at the end of the day, if you're having to defer, or like I said, tactically provide your alpha behaviors here, if you're technically deferring the hypergamous best option, it better be for a good use. Obviously, if your girl has some complications, you need the doctor to fix it, that makes sense. If you got a doctor telling you to hoard toilet paper, probably not. So always keep in the back of your mind that veto authority and boundary enforcement is how you get there. couple thoughts here. So I started a third little podcast. I see a super chat here from Nicholas Dredd. Thank you for the $15 super chat. Put a pin in that. I'm going to answer that on a little Q&A we're going to do afterwards. This one's going to be us chatting. I'll deal with all the super chats and we'll have some chit chat there for 10, 15, 20 minutes. But thank you for watching this one. Thank you for sticking around. I will catch you guys on the next series. I'll probably do it if there's time tomorrow, but I have a huge busy time with some clients and a Q&A. If not, it'll probably be Sunday or Monday again, and we'll get back into the manipulated man, after which we're going to switch back over to the married red pill and start doing some strategy on that side. So we're going to switch over right away to the next shot, and I will answer, Nicholas Dredd, your super chat over there. Okay, so cheers. Oh, I hope I changed. Yeah, I changed the intro one on this one. Thank God. 22 seconds of this. Well, I guess it's not so much a question you had in your super chat either. I just noticed that now it's a comment. But keep up the good work. I'm loving the Sidebar Series. Extremely informative. Cheers. But come on over. We'll do the questions and answers and stuff anyway. Oh, I have that timer there. I should just count that for 22 seconds. Anyways, 22 enough.